Hi guys, today we are going to learn about HL7, the complete story of HL7 and why we need HL7. Before learning HL7, it's always required to learn why we need HL7. Without knowing why we need HL7, it would be very difficult to go and learn in the future. So this story is completely for the people who are new to HL7 and the people who are already aware of what is HL7. You can ignore this video. I'm not going to copy anything from Google and explain that what is interoperability, what is EMR and medical records. It would be too confusing. So I'll go direct and straight to the point and clearly explain everything in a very layman manner. Let's start the session. So this is how HL7 message generally looks like. It has some details in it, but generally when you see a lengthy HL7 message, it will be very complicated to understand. So I'm not going to make it very complicated, and we'll start a story, create our own story and build our own protocols in HL7 message, and finally come back why it is like this. So at the end of this video, you will be able to build your own HL7 message. We'll come and start with the episode 1. Yep, in olden days, back in like 1980s or 1970s, mostly even in a few of the countries, when we go to a hospital or clinic, the doctor will look into us, take all our details in a small paper like the name, the phone number, the age, weight, and the gender, and even they will write about the problem which we are facing with and the description. And we will take this description and go back to the pharmacy to collect the medications. So most of the people will be going through this process. But what if you're trying to collect this document and go to another pharmacy or like another hospital where they will not be able to understand what's in the prescription? It would be very complicated. So we'll come to some basic examples. You can see one of the doctor has written and created his own template. I can barely understand anything over here. I can understand this is the date, but I cannot understand what are the diagrams over here and what is the description he has written. Maybe if you are taking to the pharmacy nearby to this hospital, he might understand. But if you are going to another pharmacy, they will not be able to understand. It's a very big communication gap between the data exchange. It's nothing but medical data exchange. So when it was in document format and everyone is following their own template, it would be very difficult. So let's see what this physician has done. He did a basic template that's actually very good. He mentioned the name, address, and all the details over here with the date. So by looking into this, we can easily understand, wow, this is very good, very better than this particular format. So when we come back to this format, we can understand the patient details like the age is 29, gender is male, and what date actually look into it. And even he has a signature and all the proofs. This looks very good. But when we come into this particular description, it's a little bit difficult to understand what he has written. Maybe there might be another medication with the same name, maybe there is a spelling mistake, so it is very difficult. So he almost solved the problems, but there are few lags over here. Let's come into some other template. This doctor, what he did, he has written like he tried understanding the problem over here. He had written everything in capital letter and with the clear handwriting, and even he gave like 3 days, 5 days number over here. By this you can understand like how many times you can take the medication. So everyone has their own format, but there is no standard format of exchange of this data. And even everyone has writing in their own handwriting. So we don't want someone's own handwriting. We want a standard font. For example, that can be possible only in electronic data exchange. When we type something on the Word document or PPT or Excel sheet, there will be a font everyone can understand. So we need to create a template which everyone can understand. We need to create a template which everyone should follow. If you take this particular document to any other place with your template, that every hospital in the same country can easily identify it, there should be any other problems. So now uh, let's see like our like government or federal government given us a challenge to create a very simple and easy template to exchange the data between different hospitals or organizations or applications. And let's take this as a challenge and we'll start creating our own template. Let's not look into HL7 matches. Okay, let's create our own very simple template. So what we did, okay, I gave the patient name as Virat over here, and the birth date, gender, address, phone number, problem, medication, and few other details. In reality, there might be like thousands of rows and columns, but I made it very simple to understand. And let's focus only on this particular seven keys and values. Ignore this. I just mentioned this as a key, this as a value. In HL7 message, you will not be getting this. So what I said, every hospital or every physician should follow the same templates. After the patient name, birth date should come, gender should come, address should come, phone number should come, and it would be very easy to understand. It's very simple, right? So I formed this template initially and said, okay, this is a template which all these hospitals are going to follow, and it will be very easy to everyone. Even in the medication, they are going to write whatever the medication it's needed, okay, and it will be very easy. So I said, okay, I'm going to transfer this data to another application. We'll go to episode 3. I copied this particular data and said, wow, that's done. This is the final template, and everyone is going to use this. And if I'm processing this application data from one application to another application, I'm going to send this whole data and send to other application. Okay, that's how it used to work. It should, like, in our own imagination. Then someone said that why why this particular details needed, as this particular application knows that already it will be in the same format. Why we are also copying this particular details? We only need this particular details. Okay, for example, if the second application has this particular details, okay, and we need to copy only these details, right? As the hospital has already this particular details, I am copying only these details. So they said we don't need these key values. Okay, you can see key values are nothing but this, keys are nothing but this, values are nothing but this. So we are only going to process the values, not the keys. That's good. The problem is solved, and even we are going to save a lot of data. Rather than transferring all these details, we are only going to transfer this particular values. Okay, if we are going to one hospital to another hospital or anywhere, we are only going to transfer this particular values. The problem is solved. Okay, now we'll delete this. Okay, now we have transferred this details to another application. This looks good. Okay, the basic details, and everyone knows that this is the patient name, this is the patient date of birth, gender, patient address, phone number, the problem which he is facing, and the medications. That looks good. Now see, when we are trying to send details from one application to another application, we are not going to send it in Excel sheet, okay, and there will be no rows and columns for sure. We are not going to send in PPT or OneNote, and we are going to send in a very basic template like the .txt file or anything like that. So we will not be using all these columns and rows in real time. We need to send it in a very shortcut and sweet format. Now the problem arises. So if you are not going to send in the Excel sheet, how you are going to send this data? So what I'll do, I'll create a format. I'll copy this and I'll open this and I'll paste in my notepad++. I'll say, okay man, the problem is solved. Now I'm going to send this data in this format. That looks good, right? We don't have any problem, we solved it. But no, every time when we try to send the data, there will be new problem occurring. So let's think that this was our final solution, and if we are sending this data to another application, I'll create new window, I'll paste it over here. Okay, that's how we send it from one application to another application. But still the problem is there. For example, if you think these are the only 7 details in real time, no, in real time you will be having all these details too. Okay, it would be very complicated to analyze which detail is where and where. So this is how it looks. Okay, in real time it's very complicated. If you have only like 7 or 8 values, it would have been easy, but if you have like 10,000 values over here, it would be very difficult. When I say values, those are nothing but this details. Okay, it would be very difficult to analyze. If we have keys over here, it would be easy, right? But if we have only values, something like here, it would be very difficult to analyze. And what they did, okay, we are going to arrange it in a single line. Whatever details we can accommodate in a single line, we are going to arrange this and we'll separate it by comma. I'll separate this by comma, and I'll say okay, this looks good, and I say I'll separate again this by comma, again this details by comma, again this medication details by comma. Similarly, I do the same. Okay, let's not waste the time. What I'll do, I'll copy this and I'll say all these details should be in this format. Okay, I'll remove all these messages and align into a 3 or 4 lines, and it should look good. And I say this is the format which we are going to use. Okay, and all the details will be in this lines, and the HL7 message looks something like this. Okay, something like this. It is easy, right? It is easy to analyze when you have in a line format, and after one line you can use another line for some other details. You can use a third line for specifically some other details, and the HL7 message looks something like this. That looks good. We solved the problem, and we are going to go back to our episode 5, and we'll paste it over here. That's it. Now it looks good in a very structured format, and we can read this easily. But the problem arises over here. We use commas for each and every place to separate. When we go back to our tracker, it should look something like this. Patient name is Virat, birth date is this, okay, gender is this. But when it comes to the problem, you already have a comma inside fever. When you go back here, okay, when you go back here, this all together is one value, but you already have used multiple commas over here as it is required when doctor is writing a prescription. So what will happen, it will take fever as a value for problem, automatically it will split this and it will paste this particular value over here, the headache, okay, and the nausea over here. So there is a data information problem, like there will be a manipulation for sure. So comma is not the solution. Using comma is not the solution. I'll say aspirin, something like that over here. So again the problem occurs. Using comma is not the solution, because in any sentence the doctor is writing, generally we'll be using comma, we'll be using full stop, we'll be using question marks. Okay, I'll just type it over here. These are very commonly used double quotes, columns and everything. I'll highlight them. So you are not going to use the commas are as the HL7 separators. Okay. Now think about any special characters which you can use to separate these particular values. Now what I found is better. I'll use this particular pipe characters. Generally when we are typing anything in the address or in the name or any other place, we generally don't use the pipe character, right? This would be little bit time taking, but it is very easy when you are trying to understand in the 1 hour session or more. What I'll do, I'll replace all the commas with the pipe character. I'll do uh, I'm not going to replace this particular part anyhow. Yeah, what I'll do Control H. I'll replace this comma with the pipe, replace all. And here as we know this is all one value, I'm going to use it. You can see now fever, headache, nausea, cold comes into one value. That's how in the episode 4 you are going to solve the problem of using commas. I'll copy this and I'll add over here in the episode 6. Perfect, this looks very ordered, right? When you go back to HL7 message, you can see the same lines over here. They are nothing but separating the values, and you don't get confused with other symbols over here. I'll be explaining. The only thing is, like, you can see this particular format, they are separating the values. These pipe symbols are nothing but separating the values, separating the value of name, separating the value of date of birth, separating the value of gender, address, phone number, and lot of things. and separating the value of the problems which the patient has. Okay, this is a complete string. That looks good. Now we thought the problem is over, but the problem starts now. I'll copy this. Yeah, it's already copied over here. I think it looks better here. Then when you say name, Virat is not the only name. He has the full name as Virat Kohli. Okay, if you give something like Kohli over here with these details, you know, right, what happens over here? Automatically this will be replaced as Kohli, and even his few of the patients will have the initials like doctor. Okay, and automatically what happens, this will be replaced like doctor. Gender is not going to be doctor. Now the problem arises again. What is the problem? When I explain it in detail, when I say patient name, it has multiple values in it, like Virat Kohli. I can do one thing. Yeah, I'll do one thing. It has multiple values in it. First name, last name. Don't get confused. It is very very simple. Initial, like for example, you can use doctor. So it has multiple values in it, and one single key has multiple values. And how you are going to set that multiple values is nothing but by using the keyword, the special symbol cap or caret. You can call it as component separator, but meanwhile don't get confused with all this. You can generally call it as caret. Now this will be solved easily with the help of caret. Okay, I'll give caret over here, and I'll give another caret and say doctor. Okay, the message looks something like this over here. When you have multiple values for a single key, there will be a problem. Now it would be very easy. This particular key has a value something like this. Similarly, for birth date, you will having year, month, and all the details, right? For example, if it's birth date, you will be having something like year, month, and date, and you need to type all these values. So what I'll do, I'll be using the caret value similarly as I used here. I'll be using it, and our HL7 message thinks that okay, this is completely altogether one particular field, nothing but one particular value. Similarly, I'm going to use over here, so what it becomes, something like that. Component, okay, caret, that's it. So I'll be explaining what are fields, components, subcomponents later, but I just want to explain a very very basic format of HL7. We can dig deep more in future. The only thing of this particular session is like why this format has been formed, and you are going to do it all together. Done. So you have formed this particular thing. Now everything looks good. You don't have any problem. Now what's the problem? Still there are a lot of problems over here. So we use the keyword something like field caret. Now there is another keyword known as ampersand. Okay. Before going to the next word, we'll do something like this is nothing but value separator. Separator. You can name it like that. You can see this is sub value separator. SEPERATOR. To separate all these things, there is a shortcut. You can click like this. It will be, yeah, arranged automatically, and you can see sub value separator. Okay, now you might be asking what is sub value separator. When there is one value over here, there might be multiple sub values like Virat Kohli and Doctor and over here. And you might be asking, what is sub value separator? Where we will be using? This will not be a possibility, but I am saying in case uh, Virat is not only a doctor, he has some other initials, okay? Some other random initials, DRS or something like that, okay? MRS. So you are not going to use comma over here. You are going to use ampersand. You have like sub values inside this particular place, okay? I am going to explain it over here in a simple way. For example, inside the initial, I'll take the initial over here, I'll paste here, and I'll say we have multiple values. No, no, no. Yeah, I'll paste the initial over here. Inside the initial, again we have multiple values. Initial 1, initial 1, initial 2, initial 3. This particular key has one single value. In one single value we have this three particular details. Inside this particular one again you have three particular details. Now to separate this you are going to use subcomponent separator. It's nothing but you are going to use ampersand. So when you go back here, they are using this particular thing over here. But when you directly look into the HL7 message like this, what is dr ampersand drs ampersand mrs, it will be very confusing. But in reality, it's very easy. Okay, first name, last name, initial. Inside the initial, he is having multiple initials. So something like Doctor, DRS, MRS. To separate them, you are using ampersand over here. Okay, this is how it looks. That's it. 99% of the HL7 message you already learned. You don't need to learn anything more. The only character left is like repetition character. Okay. Now, if you go back to HL7 message, you can see this carrots over here, and you can even see the ampersands. This particular message doesn't have it, but I'll explain you in future. And when we go back over here, never think that this will be the case every time. I just gave it as an example to understand. Now let's take a new screen and go to new episode altogether. Okay, I'll copy this, and yep, over here we learned about all these characters. Okay, I'll just even copy this over here and episode 7. Yeah, that looks good. Value separator, sub value separator, sub value separator. Now there is another keyword known as tilt. You might be asking, why tilt? There will be sub value separator? No, it is there for another reason. For example, you can see there is a phone number over here. Okay, phone number. This is a key, and this is a value. I'll copy this. This is a key, this is a value. If you go here, you can see this is a key, this is a value. Okay, we'll go to episode 7. Yep, episode 7, and see. Now you are going to learn HL7 completely, so don't get too much heavy over the brain. You are going to crack it. So when you have two phone numbers, for example, if the patient has two phone numbers, okay, he has another phone number 2. He has another phone number 2. This is nothing but repetition characters. These repetition characters are separated by the tilde. Okay, when you have multiple values, you are going to use tilde. And in the HL7 message, you can see this particular tilde, and don't get confused. Tilde is nothing but if you have multiple, or you can see repetition character. Anything is repeating. You can say this. So here you completely crack this whole HL7 message. You don't need to learn at all what all this field separator, component separator, and everything. With these episodes, you completely cracked the HL7 message without any issues. And there are a lot of things to learn. I'll explain in the next session, as I don't want to make the session very lengthy and complicated. The only things you might be questioning, what is this MSH, EV, and PAD and everything. Those are like number plates to car. I'll explain what it is. But all this message you can directly read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Kohli, Virat, and all these details. You might be asking, this is a little bit confusing, but there are keys for each and every value. For example, if I copy this, and generally everyone does this, these are nothing but HL7 interpreters. If I copy this over here, you can see when I click on this particular details, it is already giving the keys for me. So in generally, we will not be processing the keys, as I said, right? From here, as I said, we are going to remove the keys like this, and we are going to send only the values. So to interpret, everyone opens this HL7 interpreter. There are a lot of applications for Mac and Windows. They'll open and they will check. Okay, even after like 8 years or 9 years experience, even I cannot say what is this value. I'll use this particular tool and click and say okay, this value is nothing but the date of birth of the patient. Even I don't know right now what it was, I just click. So I'll click on this value and it shows me the zip code. So this is how we are going to interpret the HL7 message. Nobody knows all the details together. Maybe we can identify these values over here as Virat Kohli as name by watching it, but nobody knows. In general, it will be like lengthy, very lengthy. So don't think that everyone knows HL7 very well and they remember each and every values over here. And it is not a coding language; it's just a template. It's very very easy to analyze. So I'll conclude this session over here and I'll start with another session teaching you what is this particular details in front of the HL7 message. Hope you understand the basic differences, like what is value separator, like sub value separator and sub value separator, and over here you can see the repetition character. I gave the examples over here. We'll just go through once again. If we have multiple values for a single key, we will be using this caret symbol. This is nothing but component separator. Again, if you have multiple subcomponents for a single component like initial, over here we are going to use this ampersand symbol over here. Matter over. If we have repetition characters like multiple phone numbers or multiple addresses, we are going to use repetition. And don't think this is only for phone number. You can use this repetition character for multiple other values over here. You don't know, in healthcare there are like thousands of new things will be coming and keep on adding, and you will learn it. So this is the only major thing you need to learn in this session, and in the next session you will crack down everything. Thank you. Have a great day.